Stories of ghosts and goblins have been reported for centuries. Sordid histories and the hairs on the backs of our necks remind us that there is always more to fear in the dark. There is a false comfort in knowing that otherworldly tales happen only on the screen, but tales of haunting in your own backyard have led to the creation of terrifying cinema. Films such as Poltergeist, The Changeling, and The Shining have their troubled roots in Colorado. But where does fiction end and fact begin? Welcome to the house that the Stanleys built. In Estes Park, Colorado, this hotel looms over the city like a vulture, and the structure's long history is closely tied with the other side. Guests have reported encounters with a multitude of ghosts for nearly 100 years. The sound of children running in the halls when none are booked into the hotel. Doors opening by themselves. Apparitions walking the stairwells. Ghostly encounters are so abundant within these walls, ghost tours are held several times daily. It's no wonder how on a late fall evening, a prolific writer walking the halls of the empty hotel visualized a story of a winter caretaker. The film The Shining, released in 1980, places Jack Torrance into the job at the Overlook Hotel. Jack is quickly beset upon by the evil spirits of the hotel and eventually driven to the attempted murder of his wife and son. A chilling masterpiece of the terrifying duality of man. The story, however, is entirely fictional. There is no record of anyone ever being murdered at the Stanley Hotel. All stories of ghostly encounters from the Stanley have been benign in nature, and even helpful at times. Never have there been sullen twins at the end of hallways inviting playtime. But your suitcase may mysteriously get unpacked while you're touring the hotel.
And he's not here, Mrs. Torrance.
Though the story the hotel is famous for may be fiction, the Stanley Hotel has more than enough chilling stories to inspire multiple sequels to The Shining. In 1994, a maid working for the hotel was sent to check rooms on the 4th floor. When she entered the room, she found every television in 5 consecutive rooms on and playing the film The Shining. She turned each of them off and returned to the 2nd floor. After noticing her room checklist missing, she returned to the 4th floor to locate it, and found every television, which she had so deliberately turned off, all switched back on. Stories of nighttime phantoms abound all over Colorado. None are more frightening than those that take place in its capital city. In 1977, The Changeling was released. It's the story of a widowed composer who takes up residence in an abandoned mansion. He soon begins hearing strange pounding echoing through the house. Upon investigation, he finds a hidden attic room, the contents of which lead him to discover that a sickly boy named Joseph was exiled to the room and eventually murdered by his father. The ghost cannot find rest since his father, wishing to hide the murder, adopted a replacement son to take the child's place. Unable to help the ghost find rest, the haunting of the man's home becomes increasingly aggressive until the ghost finally burns the home to the ground. The script for the film was inspired by a story told to the writer by an acquaintance who had experienced this haunting in all of its horrific detail. The mansion in question was the Rogers Mansion. The resident was Russell Hunter, and chillingly, most of the details of Hunter's account translated directly into the film. Though according to Hunter, the child's name was Eric, and was not murdered but died in the room of natural causes, and in reality the house did not burn to the foundation. The real story has no such tidy ending. Hunter eventually moved, and 8 months later the mansion was demolished to make way for a new apartment tower, which stands at the site today. Though according to one account, when the demolition crew arrived to demolish the house, it exploded. Though the mansion may be gone, the story does not end there. Red rubber balls have been known to strangely appear around the new building, and a sickly child is often seen in the nearby park. So don't allow yourself to believe a ghost disappears when the building it haunts is gone. To the skeptics, there are many reasons the story of the Rogers Mansion lacked credibility, but what might make it easier to believe lies directly across the street. Cheeseman Park, one of Denver's oldest open-space parks, is utilized daily by thousands of area residents. However, Cheeseman Park was not always known as Cheeseman. For almost 70 years, it was known as Mount Prospect, and the residents who utilized it were permanent. Mount Prospect Cemetery was Denver's civic cemetery until the mid-1890s, when it was decided that it should be moved. The project of disinterring the bodies turned ghoulish. Bodies carelessly dug out of the ground, mixed up bones, grotesquely incomplete and unmarked skeletons. By the time the debacle was finally stopped, the damage was irreversible. The only thing that could be done was to move the headstones and leave whoever remained where they were buried. What is currently Cheeseman Park is about 1/3 the original size of Mount Prospect, which stretched eastward to Congress Park. Over the years, Denver encroached onto the land, and today, what was once the home of the dead is now the homes of the living. Those bodies left behind remain there today in numbers estimated to be as high as over 2,000, occasionally discovered when digging for sewer lines or foundations. Though not the original basis for the film, there are undeniable similarities in the history of Cheeseman and the 1982 film Poltergeist. In the film, a family is living in a house built on land that was once a cemetery. Mysterious spirits soon overrun their home. They quickly discover that when their house was built, the company didn't bother to move the cemetery. Though no one has been sucked into a television, cold spots have been known to exist in the park. Voices screaming or crying at night. Disembodied figures, strange-shaped depressions in the ground, about the size of a casket. Only the trees know who still lies under the grassy fields of Cheeseman, but it should never be forgotten